We are joined now by Zach Berry of OM Spirit. That is On3's Ole Miss site. Say that 5 times fast. On3's Ole Miss site. On3's Ole Miss site. All right, we got to decipher some Lane Kiffin tweets, Zach. That will probably help us figure out what Ole Miss's roster is going to look like come next season. A lot of names, big names, coming out of the transfer portal, already committed. Some they're waiting on as we speak, but by the time we run this interview, they may have already committed. We shall see. Yeah. But I'm all right. I want to throw a Lane Kiffin tweet at you, and you tell me what this means.
All right.
It is the Tennessee private jet with the power T on the tail in front of a Ruby Tuesday fine Knoxville establishment.
Yes. Great salad bar.
What does that mean?
So before the commitments happen, if you did not know or do not follow us on Twitter or go to the website, Tamarian McDonald, safety from Tennessee, and Tyler Barron, edge guy from Tennessee, both committed on Saturday. So he went to visit them in Knoxville. And then actually on the way back to Oxford, he stopped in Memphis to meet with so Barron was still in Knoxville. Tamarian McDonald was in Memphis, originally from there, went to Whitehaven High School. So little troll there for Josh Heupel and company. Maybe a little play on the tarmac stuff with he's at an airport. And then 2 locations of Ruby Tuesday, I believe, in Knoxville. They've got one that's I think in the airport. And then,
Ruby Tuesday is a Knoxville brand. It started there. It's a Knoxville institution. Yes, fine salad bar at Ruby Tuesday. I'm sure
it really is.
As he's living healthier lately, probably has partaken a few times. But yeah, two shark emojis and the photo of the plane, which tells you I just got 2 defensive players from you. And the Tyler Barron one's a big one. He had 6 sacks last year. A lot of the pub rightfully went to James Pierce on that Tennessee defensive line.
Yes.
But Tyler Barron was very effective. And you add him to another guy that Ole Miss got, Princely Umanmielen from Florida, it feels like that's a much more effective edge rushing unit that they're going to have at Ole Miss next year.
Yeah, Barron's probably more of your traditional hand-in-the-dirt guy. Umanmielen's pretty versatile. He did a lot of stand-up outside linebacker stuff for Billy Napier and the Gators, and I think that's going to be something that you will probably see Pete Golding utilize, just more versatility. And, we'll get to it in a little bit, but if Ole Miss is able to land another big defensive lineman, that'll certainly help them be more versatile and be able to flex Umanmielen out there, in space. But one thing about Tyler Barron that I mentioned on our site that I think just kind of inside baseball stuff that people may not realize, but Ole Miss also picked up Key Lawrence, a safety from Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. He and Barron played high school ball together at Innsworth in Nashville before Barron transferred.
Well, they also played together in Tennessee.
Yeah. But he so they have that that 4D chess type stuff with Kiffin where they're working those connections, those relationships with guys that grew up playing together. And then there's several other Tennessee flavored recruiting stuff in the portal where they're not only getting really good players that have played a lot of football and have experience in the SEC, but they're pretty tight and they're friends. So that helped out for sure.
That is a really interesting thing that I don't think people consider enough when you're talking about the portal is a lot of times guys, even when they've gone to different schools, play together in high school or were tight growing up in the same town, played youth sports together all the time. And it does help to leverage that stuff when you're trying to, you can pull get the band back together and they get excited about it. But all right, let me throw another Kiffin tweet at you. This was from Sunday morning. It is a GIF from the movie Field of Dreams, which Kiffin and I are the same age. So we definitely understand this. I'm not sure any of the players that he's recruiting understand this, but it is Kevin Costner walking through the cornfield and the voice is whispering, "If you build it, he will come." Who will come, Zach?
That has to be, it's a little bit like a 5,000-foot view of, hey, Lane Kiffin just, about to wrap up year 4. He's had 2 10 wins regular seasons, never been done before. He's trying to win an 11th game against Penn State in the Peach Bowl, never been done. So yeah, I mean, probably a testament to the work that he and the staff have done to build the program. It's a national brand now. They're getting a lot more respect, I think, from folks that, hey, it's not just well, Lane's going to be there for 2 years and then he's going to bounce and go somewhere else. Yeah. I think he kind of gets, okay, the Grove Collective is doing really well. We've got a really good quarterback. We got a really good running back. Defensive coordinator, probably a top 5 defensive coordinator in the country. I mean, year one, Pete Golding, top 25 SP plus defense. That's pretty impressive. So you can look at it that way, but also, yeah, he's talking about Walter Nolen. He's still on campus, I believe, as we are recording this. Full weekend visit. Family was all there. Ole Miss expects to land Walter Nolen. I think Alabama came in a little bit late to try to get a 11th hour visit from him, but I do not think it's going to happen. Yeah. I mean, come on. Saban's going to try. But yeah, I think that's what is in reference to is the number 1 overall prospect in the portal, former number 1 overall player in the country. Yeah, he's built the program. Now he's waiting on him to come.
So with Walter, Ole Miss is the closest SEC school to where Walter grew up in the suburban Memphis area, right? So I think that's where a lot of people get confused because his senior year he played at Powell, which is in Knoxville. So I think the assumption is he grew up in East Tennessee, that Tennessee is the obvious fit, but Ole Miss is probably closer to family and an extended family for him.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that especially this late in your career in college, you want your family to be able to come. And look, I know there's money at these programs.
Oh, yeah. But there's money at all. Like Walter Nolen's going to get money from anybody. Like we know that.
Yeah. So. But yeah, I mean the ease of family being able to drive 55 minutes, down I-55, hop on Highway 6 and you're in Oxford, that plays a huge role. But yeah, it's funny that this coming full circle with how Ole Miss has really struggled in DeSoto County. They've missed on a ton of talented dudes. I mean, you got N'Kobe Dean that went to Georgia. There's been some really good players at Olive Branch High School. And then now, he played his sophomore year there. And then now, fast forward a couple years down the road, and it's probably looking like he might be wearing number 0 for Ole Miss in 2024. So it's pretty wild.
Well, in another video we did together, you made an interesting comparison for him of Robert Kimdichie when he was at Ole Miss, and that it does make a lot of sense. Physically, they look pretty similar too.
Yeah, I'd probably say Robert's probably a little taller, but I think the on-field presence is eerily similar. They demand attention. They demand double teams. Nolan's a monster. He's super athletic. I mean, guy played running back in high school some. So Kimdichie did the same thing at Grayson High School when he was a senior. So I think I made the reference on Twitter when he first, got into the portal and Ole Miss was interested. It's been 10 years since Ole Miss landed the number 1 overall player in the country, which we circulated that graphic yesterday of the LeBron tweet from 2013. And there were some people that went right over their head. They missed it. Hey, that tweet's from 2013. Like, we know.
I was in the football office at Ole Miss when those faxes came in. When Kimdichie and Laramie Tunsil and it was a very interesting day at Ole Miss.
I think I was at brunch in Hell's Kitchen when that happened.
Yeah, that was one I embedded with the Ole Miss staff the night before signing day and on signing day, and there was an offensive lineman they signed from, I believe, Montgomery, Alabama, and it was one where he was doing, everybody else had done these ESPN commitment things, but a lot of them had sent their stuff in early. So a lot of what you saw with the coaches celebrating was acting, because I want to say Tunsil's was the first one in, like, because he was early. He's from Florida, so he sent it in 7 a.m. Eastern time. So it came in 6 a.m. Central time. It's just sitting there, and they're waiting for his announcement. But there was another player who announced, and so he had an announcement on Facebook. It was streamed on Facebook from the library of his high school. And Matt Luke was his lead recruiter. Matt Luke was the O-line coach at the time. And the other coaches are just wearing Matt Luke out because I believe Auburn was also in on it, and maybe Florida State. And they're just like, I think mom is mom wearing orange? Is he going to Auburn, Matt? And they had Matt Luke so messed up, and I think he was pretty sure he had the kid, but he was just they planted the seed of doubt because that was one they had.
Oh, was it Austin
trying to
Golson?
find the name. What's that?
Was it Austin Golson?
Yes, that's who it was.
Okay.
Yeah. And
yeah.
And then he finally commits to Ole Miss, and Luke's just like, it was complete ball busting from the rest of the staff. Poor Matt Luke. I felt so bad for him because they were relentless.
Yeah, I've always wondered if those like war room reactions are actually genuine. I'm sure some of them are, but some of them is probably like ESPN's, okay, let's record this now so when it happens we can just run it.
Well, no, what they did is they recorded it when the announcement happened. They recorded it with them watching the announcement. They just already knew what was going to happen. But yeah, there was an ESPN reporter there. And it was funny. I can't even remember who it was, but they got in later in the day. So I already knew who they had at that point. And but yeah, they would say, "Okay, no, big energy." But it is 10 years, but it is telling, and it says something about how college football has changed, how the transfer rule changes have changed how things work. Mm-hmm. Let's say, because the recruiting class looking good, they flipped an offensive line from Miami, they flipped a quarterback from Texas A&M, and that's great. But if they add that to a class that includes Princely Umanmielen, Tyler Barron, if they get Walter Nolen, if they get Juice Wells, I mean, you're looking at essentially as impactful a class as Laramie Tunsil, Robert Kimdiche, and Laquan Treadwell.
What I've been telling people, it's like a staff that is heavily investing in winning now in real time. Mm-hmm. Like, I think the way the schedule lines up next year for Ole Miss, there's no Auburn, there's no Alabama. You get Georgia at home, you get Oklahoma at home. On the road against LSU, but that's without Jaden Daniels. So I think they're really sensing a humongous opportunity. I mean, we know the playoff expands next year. If it was expanded this season, not only would it just be an incredible playoff, but Ole Miss would be in it. So yeah. I think they're sensing, it's time to seize the moment, seize the opportunity, let's make a run now, and then just all the natural connections and relationships with the staff. I mean, Pete Golding, just the ROI on that one continues to just soar through the roof. He knows all the top players in the country. He recruited them when he was at Alabama, and I think that that's starting to really pay off with him being able to sit down and have those face-to-face meetings with these elite defensive guys.
Yeah, it is going to be very interesting if they can finish this season strong, because they play Penn State in the Peach Bowl. That's another chance for them to have a big pop where everybody sees them. And then it feels like they bring back quite a bit compared to what is also coming in.
Right. Honestly, outside of Dayton Wade, they pretty much bring everybody back on offense. They expect Quinshon Judkins, Jackson Dart back. I'm sensing some optimism on Ulysses Bentley. I think that missing out on Keelan Lacey, the 4-star running back out of Lancaster, Missouri, swooped in, got him late. That's a big get for Drinkwitz because he's a stud. I think they're probably going to try to retain Bentley. And, yeah, Micah Pettis is back on the offensive line. And I think, you add Juice Wells to that wide receiver room. I mean, it's crazy. We talked earlier this year, the only, wide receiver group in the country with 3 guys over 700 yards. If they bring in Juice Wells and the foot's healthy, I mean, the expectations are going to be through the roof.
Well, it's going to be one of those things where they're probably your trendy pick to win the SEC at that point. Obviously Alabama, Georgia are still going to be the favorites, but they will be a very trendy playoff pick, and playoffs a realistic expectation with the 12-team playoff, given what they did this year, given what they bring in and what they bring back. So it is, and that's probably when Lane Kiffin decided to stay last year. that's what you're building toward. I mean, and it does look like Lane Kiffin is there long term. Like, I don't think he has to answer any more questions about, are you going to be there?
Yeah, and there was and I feel bad because I don't remember the writer, but there's a really good long form about Kiffin and his journey to Ole Miss and kind of what helped him make the decision to stay, because Auburn wanted him. The conversations were down the line, and he was close, but just his kids being there now. Knox is getting older. I wouldn't be shocked if he moved to Oxford and went to school there, but I think more so just the family feel. He's a very different guy than he was when he was at Tennessee and Southern Cal and with the Raiders. I think he's settled in, and I think he realizes what he's built and what could be built with just the success he's had in the portal. And hey, he doesn't really need to go anywhere else to do it now because the playoffs are 12 teams. Yeah. Before, it made sense. Like, it's only 4. Sometimes you got to be at a bigger place, to catch those breaks, to have a better roster. But now with the portal, he's kind of figured out a nice way to do both high school and portal. And if this all unfolds like we think it will, 2024 is going to be, I mean, what would you say, Andy? Preseason top 10?
I would think so, yeah. And he's trying to figure out I think that's what a lot of coaches are trying to do is okay, how do I do this? Combining the high school recruiting and the portal. And I think he figures out, you gotta recruit your offensive line through high school. You could spot recruit through the portal, but that's not going to sustain you. So you got to get those guys. And then you do still have to get the occasional Quinshon Judkins out of high school that is homegrown and look, he stole them from under Auburn and Alabama's nose. Like, they both probably could have gotten Quinshon Judkins had they wanted him more in high school. So you still have to be able to pull off that evaluation trick every once in a while. But then you add in their collective is very organized, seems to understand. And I mean, you've got Walker Jones, former Under Armour executive, like a guy who's been in the business, understands how the business works.
Yeah.
I think that has a lot to do with it. But you're right. The expectations are going to be sky high next year, and rightfully so. If all of this comes to fruition, it'll be preseason top 10.
It's kind of one of those, everything's clicking on all cylinders where you win 10 games, so the fan buy-in is through the roof. People are constantly upping their donations to the collective. They're excited about the bowl game. Peach Bowl, never played Penn State
they're donating to the collective, and it's interesting because Ole Miss just finished a lot of renovation type stuff.
Yeah.
So they already got the donations for that. So they're not having to ask for money for that right now. And they can just tell the fans, donate to the collective. And I think there's a lot of other schools that don't have that luxury because they're still trying to build stuff, or they had projects that were in progress when all this stuff changed. So Ole Miss they're hitting it at the right time.
Yeah. And Kiffin gets it because I remember like it was maybe year 2 where they were really pushing the, I think it's called the Forward Together campaign to try to, boost Vaught Hemingway Stadium, clean it up, premium seating type stuff. And Kiffin was like, no. Put that all into NIL. Like, the stadium can wait.
Yep.
Like, we got to build the roster. And I think that's huge. I mean, a coach that understands, like, hey, Vaught Hemingway, sure, there are better stadiums in the SEC, but it's fine.
Yeah.
It's good.
If you put better players in the stadium and you win games, fans will spend lots of money on lots of things. So that you can get that money later. Yeah. Well, Zach, thank you so much. And this will be a very interesting week for you.
Yeah. My last question for you. Any other gifts or tweets? I know there was one that
I'm ready. I got one more. This is from Juice Kiffin. I don't think I've ever quoted a tweet from a dog before, but it's a poster that says Grand Theft Portal, and it's got Lane Kiffin with one of the GTA ladies draped all over him. And I believe he said, "Son, this is why you shouldn't tweet." So does Knox run the Juice Kiffin Twitter account? Is this a teenage boy and not a dog?
I have no confirmation on this. I think it's probably a collection of people. I'd imagine his daughters probably have a hand.
Gotcha.
Maybe there's a recruiting recruiting staffer that has to do it. I don't think Kiffin does it, but I'm not 100%.
I am just waiting until Juice Kiffin tweets something out that's a secondary violation so that we have our first NCAA violation committed by a dog.
Canine. Yeah. Yeah. Who knows, man? The folks that take care of Juice, Wild Rose Kennels, I mean, that dog, I mean, I have a lab. They're incredibly intelligent. They're people pleasers, but that dog is very well behaved. So who can say
he won't commit any NCAA violations? Okay, I understand.
That, and he might be able to tweet. I don't know.
Well, Juice Kiffin's going to be tweeting up a storm this week. If all of this comes to pass, it's going to happen. So, Zach, thank you so much.
Yeah, man.
Thank you so much for watching. Just a reminder, subscribe to this channel right here so you never miss an episode of Andy Staples On3. And oh, by the way, watch all the other great videos on the On3 Sports YouTube channel.